Fabulous.
Welcome from Scottish Table Tennis. My guest this evening is a Commonwealth medalist, a multinational champion, a 5 times national doubles champion, and in 2019, she just remembered, was when she won the English close. Welcome to Maria Tsaptsinos. Our panel tonight will include a number of junior internationals led by Amelia Norbury, and she'll be introducing our young stars. Once again, national selector Mark Lundberg will be my right-hand man, and Matt will be picking up the questions and comments on YouTube. Right, Maria, you are a very good footballer, an even better tennis player, a fantastic table tennis player, but a rubbish surfer. Tell us about it.
I wouldn't say I was rubbish. I would say I was clumsy. So December this year, I was having a great season playing in Italy, playing in France in the league and Greece in the league. We were top of those respective divisions. And then I took a holiday to Mexico. I decided to go surfing with my brother and his girlfriend's family. And I basically jumped off the board. And bit stupid of me, and then my foot basically bent back. As a result, I didn't break it, thankfully, but I bruised the whole side of my foot. But knowing that I had league matches to play and everything, when I got back, I just carried on playing, and that basically led a whole spiral of effects to missing about 2 months of table tennis afterwards, which wasn't great.
And how's the injury now?
Fine. I've been at home. I came home after Portugal Open, February 15th, and I've been at home since. I had about a month recovery, which was good because before this whole global pandemic happened, I was planning to play World Championships in South Korea. So I missed the national championships in preparation, but now it was kind of a little bit of a blessing because it meant that I could really let my foot heal. Because if I'd gone to World Championships, I think it would have been fine and I would have been able to sustain my play, but I don't know if it would have done me some more damage even further down the line. But now I can run, I haven't actually been, apart from playing with my robot, I haven't actually been on the table since because everything closed. So we'll see when I get back into the table tennis hall. But other than that, it's pretty good.
Yeah, and that was the same year as you probably fulfilled. Well, it's difficult to know whether you value the Commonwealth medalist or being an international, but I would say becoming the national champion in 2019 and not being able to defend your title, was that a real...
Yeah, it was. The nationals, I would say, is like probably the most nerve-wracking event that you play, because you play all these international events but no one has such high expectations, and you don't really play on the circuit, and all these England juniors that are all up and coming, they all love the sport and they're all playing really well. You don't see them and you don't see what everyone is doing, basically. So I was really nervous because because my injury, and I didn't want to go and play and basically not play to my best ability. But it was, at the same time, I went to watch, and it was a bit like, oh, I wish I was playing, because the adrenaline you get in front of playing against people that you know, and normally my family comes up and they don't often watch me play. My mother's birthday falls on the weekend every year. Every year she spends her day in a table tennis hall. So it was really disappointing not to be able to fight for the title, basically.
It was interesting because when we were talking last week, in achieving that goal, you didn't feel as though you was playing that well on the day. So can you just talk us through your moment of from the first round right through to lifting up that title against your friend and your sparring partner, Tintin?
Yeah, so when coming into the tournament, I was feeling okay. It was my first year for professional, really professional, not doing anything else. I was living out in Italy. But there was a bit of nerves, and then the expectations go up a little bit more. You're playing professionally, you should have improved loads. But I was still hearing people being like, oh, the first year is always up and down. No, you're finding your feet. So going in, I was nervous. It was really, I had mixed doubles, which is always nice to start with. I was playing with Tom Jarvis on the Friday, and I played, I'm not gonna lie, he will vouch for me pretty atrociously. I don't think I got one forehand on the table, and if I didn't get one forehand on the table, it means I got no backhands on the table, basically. So I went home on the Friday night, not having played any singles, like completely not devastated. I was just like, wow, I've been training for 6 months for what? And then the next day, doubles to start with, which was fine with Tintin. And then I played Molly Patterson in the quarterfinals of the singles, which was my first match, which again, all these people have had the exposure into the hall. I know I lived in Nottingham and it was in Nottingham, but it's different playing on the day. They'd play group matches. And then after that, so I had 1-0, I think, 10-8 down against Molly in the quarterfinals. And in my head, I was just like, what? Like, what do I do? I didn't feel like I was playing, not to disrespect Molly at all. She was playing great and she's improved loads. But I was just like, so then I thought to myself, I just got to fight for every point. And I managed to win 4-1, which I was very happy about. And then going on, I played Denise so that was my only match, singles match on the Saturday. On the Sunday, the semi-final match, which is one table, all televised, I was playing Denise, who I know well. She was playing out in Austria at the time. And then I was 2-0 down against Denise. Bit hopeless, not hopeless, what's the word I'm looking for? A bit lost. I didn't know what tactics I was. Every year at Nationals, I don't have a coach with me. I have my dad sat in the corner. He knows nothing about table tennis. He just hands me a bottle and tells me to calm down most of the time or stay close to the table. So I was looking for some sort of inspiration. And again, I just thought, I've got to win. If I win ugly, it just means I'm going to get to where I need to get to, which is the final, which is what I was ranked to get to. And it's always one match at a time, but at the end of the day, it's kind of where you're ranked and where you feel you should be getting to is kind of the achievement. And then in the final, I just went on no nerves. I played against Tintin thousands of times, hundreds of times. Every national title I've won was against Tintin. And I know she's a great player, and I didn't really go in with any expectations, but because I think all the pressure was off me, I didn't have any nerves and everything, I went in and I kind of showed what I'd been doing for the last 6 months. And so I started 2-0, then it went 2-2. And I think I got annihilated like 11-3 or 11-5, I can't remember, in one of the sets before. And I was like, okay, I have to step it up again. Because when there was that little bit of hope, that little bit of, oh, I'm 2-0 up, I can actually do this. It was a change in me. And then, yeah, I managed to win 4-2, which I wasn't expecting at all, considering I'd started the weekend in tears in like a Premier Inn in Nottingham. So, yeah, it was pretty good.
1 match point, 2 match points, 3 match points?
Ooh, 1 match point.
Wow. Yeah.
I think 10-5. Or maybe 2, maybe it was 10-4. I can't remember, but it was 11-5 in the last set. That's all I remember.
Well done.
I remember getting a string of points and being like, oh, I've got a string of points here. I've got to keep this going because I'm going to get close to winning soon.
Yeah, good. Okay, so let's go back. This footballer, this tennis player, highly talented, decided to switch to the smaller racket. Sounds a little bit like Gavin Rumgay, actually. That's exactly what he did. So you're playing a good standard at other sports. So tell us how you got the bug of table tennis.
Ooh, so primary school, I was playing football and tennis. My dad is mad about football. We're kind of a football mad family. Tennis, we had a local tennis club. I think my brother was having lessons, so I went down. So I was playing those sports already. No one in my family had ever come across table tennis. No, they didn't even know what sort of level there was out there. I don't think they'd even seen a professional match. And then a club started on a Friday lunchtime for, I think, year 5s and year 6s at primary school. I just picked up a bat, went with some friends, Friday lunchtime, guy was like, oh, the coach there, Graham, was like, you got good hand-eye coordination. Why don't you keep this going? Invited me to the Monday sessions after school. And it basically escalated from there until he was like, okay, you've actually got some potential. So why don't you go to Kingfisher? So then I turned up at Kingfisher. Literally, no one knew. We didn't know anything about table tennis at the time. And it just started from there. And then you slowly start playing some 1 stars, some 2 stars. You start winning some things, which always helps. If you're winning, you want to keep playing because you're enjoying it even more. I was lucky because in Reading there were many players at the time. There was Liam, also many famous players like Alison used to train in Kingfisher. Matthew Side was from Kingfisher. So many like prestigious names in table tennis were at Kingfisher. I had access to Nikki Jarvis, who was close by. And then age 13, I won my first national title under 14s, which I was not expecting at all, I don't think. And then I started getting selected for England, and it just kind of progressed from there. And I don't think at any point I sat down and thought, oh, do I actually like this? Because I think it just came naturally that I did like it. Because if I didn't like it, I think that would have been obvious to me.
Yeah. So you sort of, you made speedy progress, but you've mentioned a few names there. Tell us about, was it Graham Outram? Have I got the name correct?
Graham Outram.
Graham Outram. Yeah, tell us about Graham, because it's always interesting to all of us, because these people who spot the talent, like it was Mark's dad who spotted Gavin Rungay, you know, these are the people who are so important in table tennis, and they're often forgotten about because you're lifting up a national title, you might have a national coach each side of you or whatever. Yeah. So let's say about Graham. Was he multi-sports? I think it was, wasn't he? Was he a sports coordinator?
No, he just Graham was just table tennis.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, he did loads of primary schools around the area just doing table tennis, and he was a member of the table tennis club. And even throughout, once not I'd outgrown him, but he already had clients for 1-to-1 sessions and stuff like that. So I had Brian Halliday for many years, but I used to see him at the club. He had a good reputation around the area. And yeah, it's hard to remember really, but I just remember that he used to make things fun. He used to do a lot of smash and all the stuff that you want to do when you start playing table tennis. You see people smashing the ball. He used to teach us how to lob the ball, or do it for a can of Diet Coke, who can win. And it was all kind of fun. And obviously if you're at school with your friends as well, makes it, everyone's there, so you want to be there as well.
Yeah. So you're at the Kingfisher now. Graham is obviously passed you on. Brian's sort of taken over, Brian Halliday. Did you have any age group players similar age to you to practice against, or was it all these superstars that Reading have continually produced?
No, so again, I was lucky. So at the time that I was at primary school with Graham, he also spotted two other players, brother and sister, Megan Knowles and Jared Knowles, who I think both, I'm not sure about Jared, but Megan definitely represented England at under 15 level. And Megan was my age and Jared was 1 or 2 years above. And so we all went to Kingfisher, and Kingfisher kind of became a hub. I had Brian there doing a little bit of 1-to-1, some multi-ball. He used to put loads of cones on the table and used to time me, and then it used to get to books and stuff like that. But then there were a lot of group sessions, and then people like Liam McTiernan and his brother Daniel McTiernan. We had a little group of us, and also some others. Regional training was all held at Kingfisher. So when Alison Bro was our regional coach, she used to have like Tressa Armitage come up, who was playing for England at the time. And so I was surrounded by people who were basically very good at table tennis and helping me push myself.
Sure, the right player at the right time at the right club, I would say.
Yeah.
And you've not yet mentioned Peter Chartist, because I believe it took the two of you a little while to see eye to eye, and so I'd like to hear how you integrated with Pete, and then I'm going to hand you over to Amelia and the girls.
I think Pete is probably definitely watching this as well, but No, it wasn't that we didn't see eye to eye. I think I was just not a character at the time. He thought I was there for fun, I think. And he thought I wasn't taking it very seriously, the game, and I probably wasn't. I was still playing 2 other sports, and Pete obviously was England chairman for a long time, and he'd seen elite level table tennis. So obviously, if you see someone who's kind of messing about, just wants to have a little bit of fun, I wasn't really there at the time to play 10 hours of multi-ball every week. I wanted to mess about a little bit, just learn about table tennis, I think, at the beginning. But then I think over time, as I grew up, and obviously I matured, I was probably quite an immature child, young teenager. I think he definitely saw that I wasn't just messing about, and as soon as I started playing for England, I think our bond connected, and yes, we're good friends now.
We're going to have Pete for a private Zoomcast with the girls, and I'm going to let the girls onto him. So if you want any revenge, I'll set Amelia and the Trinians onto him. Right.
He does a lot for me now, so.
Good. Yeah. Right. Do you want to start the ball rolling?
Yeah. Are we starting with a quick fire?
What you'd like to start with a quick fire, would you? It's up to you.
Okay, I think we should start with it.
Go on then.
Okay, so were you spin-based or power-based or 50-50?
Spin-based.
Spin-based. So timing generally, were you early, on top of the ball, or after?
I was definitely after. I was so late.
Most effective or strongest stroke?
Forehand fade down the line. Kind of renowned for that one.
Oh, sorry. Get the right way.
Least effective or weakest stroke?
Backhand open up from backspin, not my forte.
From any player, the one stroke you wished you had?
Krianga, his backhand, for sure, 100%.
Your best or favorite serve?
I used to practice fast to the middle. I love doing that to people.
The best server you've ever received against?
Beng Chan Wei from Singapore. Very good service.
Your favorite opponent type to play against, so like defender, spinny, blocker?
I would say it used to be defenders. I used to love playing against defenders. Now, just a normal player, someone who spins, has a bit of everything. Nothing too good at everything.
Your least favorite opponent type, so someone who's not?
Yeah, probably now a defender. I don't get enough practice against them.
Best player you've ever played against?
Cheng Chang, but I think that's how you pronounce it, from Taiwan. She was like number 8 in the world.
Scores? Come on, the scores.
I got absolutely annihilated first round of World University Games in Taiwan with the whole crowd, and I think the first point I missed my serve. And they were all clapping. It was very embarrassing.
The victory that gave you the most pleasure?
Doubles Commonwealth Games in the bronze medal match.
The player you most admire?
Ooh, I like loads of players, but I'm just going to go basic. Timo Boll. I think he's just all round amazing. He's great. Like, I could watch him forever. He just makes everything look so easy.
Is that 12?
That's the 12 done.
Well done. You've survived that. Holly, have you got a question for Maria?
So what do you feel is the best way to balance out sport and school, and was the Sports England scholarship beneficial to you?
Sport England scholarship, what was that?
The TAS thing.
TAS. Oh, okay. How do I balance school and sport? Or difficultly, but also I was just busy. You have to learn that if you want to do both, you're not going to have that much downtime. Yeah, I was very lucky at school that they would let me go abroad a lot of the time, and the club was very close to my school, so I'd just go straight after. I obviously did make allowances when I had, like, I remember even like GCSEs and A levels. I actually took a break from table tennis. I don't know, not completely. It would just be like 1 or 2 practices a week because they were very important to me. And then again, when I moved to Nottingham, I was very lucky. They made a lot of allowances for me. Pick a degree that has no hours. Geography. And TAS. Yeah, when I had TAS when I was at university, and it basically meant that I had free gym membership. I even had a lifestyle coach called John Cantor, who, for my first ever interview for a job, he sat with me for an hour and practiced interview questions with me, which was really helpful. So I benefited a lot from that. And I got the job. So I benefited greatly from that. What else? I just think you've got to prioritize. I know, speaking from me, and I can also speak a kind of on behalf of like Tintin a little bit. We always had different priorities. I was very social. I still wanted to maintain that social life, but there was kind of a cut-off point where I was like, okay, I won't go to this thing, but I'll plan so that I can go to something else. Whereas, yeah, we're just different priorities. You've got to sit down. Also, I like to be very organized. So I had everything in my calendars. And just talk to people as well, because a lot of the time people will be like, can we do this? And if you can't really do it, I was just like, can we do the day before? And many people, like, if people understand what you're doing and what you're going through, then, well, they don't completely understand it, but then they're going to make more allowances for you and help you out a lot more. But I think you can do both. I definitely recommend doing both. Gives you a balance in life.
Well done. Paula?
Yeah. What's your favourite thing about table tennis?
My favorite thing about table tennis. That is so difficult. I love how fast it is and how energetic and how varied it is. There's so many different ways to train and do things. I know it sounds a bit weird, but I kind of also like the fact that not many people not know too much about it, so they're really like interested in it when you talk about it, because then they're like, wow, you play table tennis? You're like, yeah. And then you show them something, they're like, people get so interested and excited. Yeah, but I like the variation. I also like the fact that there is a big table tennis community, so you can make friends. There's lots of things to do. I enjoyed traveling, so yeah, I would say that. It's such a difficult question. What's your favourite thing about table tennis?
Oof. Oh, that's...
I'm going to ask you over to our national selector and Scottish international, Mark Lundberg. What have we got for Maria?
Well, I might want to start a little bit easier. I mean, I'm trying to get tougher questions. But going back to, why did you choose Nottingham University to start with? What was it? I mean, obviously, sort of people don't know, there's a table tennis setup there.
Yeah.
Was that the reason to go there, and what was the setup like there? Because also we've got our own Callum Morrison there at the moment.
I think Callum will probably vouch that if you want to play table tennis and you want to get a good level of education, Nottingham is probably one of the best places to go. Okay, it's no Oxford and Cambridge, but it's a very renowned university as well for its academics. So I think if it wasn't that, then I probably wouldn't have gone as well, because I value my academics as well as I value my table tennis. But I was very fortunate. I had Liam McTinnan, who I'm really good friends with, from Reading. He went there before, and he kind of set up, well, he didn't, there was already a table tennis club, but he kind of helped build it even more. And so there were lots of players there for me. the table tennis England started migrating there. So it was very easy for me if I moved there to access everything. They had a gym, I could use all the facilities. And I could have the coaches. The coaches were very nearby, so they would come and help me out, do multi-ball. The setup itself, I would say, is amazing. They have training nearly every day. The value that Nottingham put on table tennis is, I've never seen it like anywhere else. Okay, I'm not talking like Germany and stuff like that, but in England, you are, I know it sounds a bit weird, but you're respected. It's it's a respected sport at the university. A lot of the time people will laugh about table tennis, but at Nottingham, you felt like you meant something and you were part of the university, and they had such a big community. I think it's even growing now. And the fact that there were already so many good players there that maybe weren't part of the England setup, but were still, so even if I went to like a club just training session, I wasn't doing my own private sessions with the coaches, there were still like really good players. Everything was so beneficial to me. But again, I go back to the fact that it was also a good university. It did the course I wanted to do. So it just made sense, really. And I wanted to continue playing table tennis to a high level.
Mark, do you want to follow up on that, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned about coaches earlier, and obviously I found it interesting when you talked about at the national championships not having someone in your corner. Something actually growing up in table tennis where if you're coaching from an area where a coach insists to be on the corner and you can't get away from them. So what made you make that decision? What sort of going down that path of not having someone there? Because obviously when you're playing for England, there is a coach there. When you're playing individually in such a huge championship at nationals and not having a coach, just what's your thinking behind that?
So when I was younger, I had the late Brian Halliday. He passed away. So I think if he was still here, he'd probably be in my corner. He was a very knowledgeable man, and he saw me win my first 2 national titles. And after that, I just think no one had worked with me like that. No one knew me as well as he did. Okay, he always vouched for the fact that you learn so much from being by yourself as well. You should kind of get to a point where you can kind of self-coach yourself to a certain point. I'm not talking when I'm playing Cheng Yi Chang from Taiwan, but I just felt comfortable with my dad. He's always been in my corner, and he's someone that I trust, and you know that 100% wants you to win. Is only gonna think positively of you, whatever the outcome. Yeah, I've had lots of coaches, lots of input from lots of different people, but after Brian passed away, I don't think there was anyone who really focused on me as their only player or only of a few players. It was a lot of different groups. I would go and train in London. We had regional training. The regional training coaches changed. Then England coaches, I started with Nikki Jarvis. Then we had a huge change. Matt Stanforth came in for the women. Then Alan Cook. Then so there was no real consistency. Obviously, the England coaches can't coach you at national events as well. And then at Nottingham, we had Kelly, but Kelly was still playing. So there was never anyone. I don't want to say for me. I could have found someone. I could have had another table tennis player. But I like the consistency, and I like having my dad there. Really, it's quite nice. Someone cheering you on.
Obviously the 2019 national championships. If people haven't seen it, watch it on YouTube. It's a great match, and it's a great spectacle that English table tennis put on. You mentioned earlier about being on television is absolutely fantastic to watch. But actually, the commentators right at the start talking about staying up to the table. If Maria's going to win this match, she needs to stay up to the table. Obviously, you talk about self-coaching. Is it just experience of playing Tintin in finals where you knew? Because certainly in the first 2 sets, that was your game. So how much did you sort of ingrain that into yourself going into the final?
I think a lot. If you watch also the semi-final, I won a lot of points away from the table. I was like exhausted by the end. Obviously, if you play away from the table, you got a much larger distance to cover. So I wasn't. I needed to I knew it was going to be a challenging match, and Tintin can smash. I know that. And if it was going to be close, I wanted to maintain my energy and stay up close to the table. Yeah, it was a lot of, also, I say my dad doesn't coach me. The one thing that he will say to me the whole time is stay up to the table, like don't drift back, because as you get better and better, people clock onto those kind of things and smash you away from the table so easily. It's always a nice backup to have. But yeah, against Denise, I just felt like I was winning too many, I don't want to say lucky points, but too many points from her mistakes. And I wanted to be dominant. I wanted to make sure that I was taking control of the points. So yeah, it was a lot of me telling myself, Maria, stay close. If you don't stay close, you've got no chance. And obviously, you're watching a national final. People kind of want to see a good match. You don't want to get destroyed, especially when it's on TV.
I think what was quite funny in the final was actually a few of the lobbing rallies that came in. You actually won. I think Tintin was a bit taken aback of you actually the depth, and she actually hit some horrible smashes certainly in the first couple of sets against you, and it certainly caught her by surprise. But obviously, I mean, watching the match, obviously staying up and getting that forehand in, it made such a the fast start that you made was that tactic.
Yeah, she hit one completely top edge. I think it went miles, if I'm honest, which we laugh about now, so she won't mind me saying that. She won this year. She had this year. It's fine. But yeah, so I've always been taught, if you can do it, it's always an advantage, because if you do get pushed back, and a lot of the time Tintin plays so close to the table and it's so fast, and if you're not up to that pace and you can't do that, you have no chance, basically. I'm not as quick as her, and I will fully admit that. She is rapid around the table. So if I can get in and dominate, but if she does, it's always something that I have to fall back on, which, again, it's handy, and I'm so glad I won those points. Because also people love watching those points. I know it's weird, but if you hit like a serve and then someone pushes and you play one topspin and the point is over, it's not as entertaining, and people always say that I like to entertain the crowd. So
I think that's important. I mean, it's come up before. I think, as we mentioned before on our Zoomcast of outside parties understanding table tennis, and that coverage that BBC put into it, and having such a spectacle is important for our sport. So I mean, it's obviously it's great film to watch and see, and more interesting rallies than it being over than sort of 3 or 4 shots make it a lot more interesting to watch.
I don't do it on purpose, though.
Yeah. It was interesting because I was listening to you could say the English version of this, and Paul Drinkall didn't have a coach in his corner, and he was asked the question, he was 2-0 up. Do you think if you'd have had a coach, would you have got over the line? And his answer was, well, I might not have even been 2-0 up if I'd have had a coach. So, these things. But if I know Nikki Jarvis, who I work with very closely, we both preach self-sufficiency. To me, a coach has to be a bonus. And when you start off coaching, I'm sure you'll agree with this, the coach has probably got something like an 80% input in the tactics. But when a player develops and becomes a national player, it's important that you listen. The coach has to listen. And at that point, you might only be putting in 5 or 10% or only one little bit of advice. So it is important that, like we're saying, that players are able to look after themselves. And I'm sure, as you know, sometimes you'll go abroad, you'll play for England or Scotland. The coach has got 5 players on at the same time. 4 of them won't have a coach. So the sooner they learn to fend for themselves, then the better. Right, Amelia, your own, I think, take one of your own and take one from the Zoomcast, can you please?
Okay, so my own one would be, so obviously you went and did your geography degree. So what made you decide after that to go professional and train and compete abroad?
So I finished my geography degree in 2018, and I was writing my dissertation in Australia at the Commonwealth Games. So I finished about 3 months later than everyone else, just because of that. And it was such a busy year that I hadn't even thought about what I was going to do afterwards. It hadn't even really come to my mind. It was just so busy. I was like, okay, I've got to do this. And then as soon as I was back, it was like, I've got to finish my degree. And it kind of came to a point where I was just like, I've never done this. I've never given it, I don't want to say my all, because I probably did, but I've never done it just table tennis. And I wanted to give it a try. And if I didn't do it then, personally for me, I would have never have done it, because as soon as it's kind of the world that we live in, as soon as you get a job, then you get another job, and then you get another job, and it's kind of just spirals on like that. So it was a decision I took with my family as well, because at the beginning, I was also like, we had Marcus Gustafsson came in as the coach, and he was very helpful in finding me a club very late on. I think it was about late June, early July. I was like, okay, I'm going to go abroad, find me a place to live and find me a club abroad. And normally everyone finalizes everything so quickly. But I was so fortunate that I came across the Italian Federation, basically offered me a place at their national training center, and a place in one of the national coach has a team in the first league, and he said he'll take me on. At that point, I wasn't actually, I didn't have any costs when I was living there, but I wasn't earning any money. So I also had to take that decision with my parents a lot as well, because if I want to go and play tournaments and do stuff like that, that's going to be an expense. And so there were a lot of conversations. Could I do it? Could I not do it? Did I want to do it? And it was ultimately, I wanted to try it. Even if I hated it at the end of the day, I had a degree. I could always come back. I could always get a job. So it was more an opportunity that I saw. And then I liked it. So then I signed on for another team in the 2 years after this season in France and in Greece. And yeah, it just stayed there. Well, we moved location, but stayed with the same group of training people.
Cool.
Again, we asked Gavin that. Again, I'll come back to Amelia. We asked Gavin this. Can you talk us through playing in the National League? Do you meet the night before? Do you practice with your teammates? How many matches do you play? Do you have to play? Just give us a rundown.
Okay, so when I played in Italy in my first year, I played every match. It wasn't home and away. I would go normally the night before, but where we were west coast of Italy, just below Rome, so we were miles away, because the north of Italy is where the money is, kind of. I know that sounds weird. So all the matches were played up there. So it was a lot of taking 3 trains for literally a whole day, arriving about 6 p.m., 7 p.m. at the house of where the club is, the club owner, having dinner, going to sleep, waking up early, driving to the training hall. But it changed a little bit now in France. Now where I play, I think it depends on the club. It depends the circumstances. If I had tournaments, they would fly me from the tournament straight to the league matches. In France, Italy then changed to home and away, which wasn't great. France was also home and away, but I didn't have to play that many away matches this year. But I would always arrive the night before, normally either a team meal. Most of the time we stayed together unless they were local players, which was only one in Italy. And then we play the match, and then it was literally like a three-day thing. You'd leave Friday, you'd play Saturday, you'd come home Sunday. So it wasn't anything.
And the format, is it a 3-lady team? You all play 2? Is it a world championship format?
So I think it varies. In Italy, we had 3 players, and now you're asking. I think we played number 1, 2, 2, 1, 3 against 3.
One plays 1 and 2, one plays 1 and 3. Yeah, and then 3 plays 2.
France, we had 4 players, and that was just everyone plays everyone, but as soon as you finish, you finish. Yeah. And there were 2 doubles matches in the middle, and you could arrange them however you wanted.
And how many tables?
How many tables? 2. And that was because they were home and away matches. It was a much bigger community in France, So I also got the opportunity to sit on the bench a couple of times for the Pro A team in France, which they would just announce. My club, Saint-Quentin, has just announced that they were elected as the winners of the Champions League, which is like unbelievable. And they hadn't lost a match basically this whole season. They had like Mo Zhang from Canada, Mikhailova from Russia. They were doing very well. And I got to sit there on their team. They were very all-encompassing. They wanted everyone to be together. We all stayed in one house together, team meals, team barbecues. Yeah, it was great. And in Greece was similar, 3 players. And it was a bit like 1 plays 2, 3 plays 2. So if you were 1, you played 1 and 2. If you played 2, you played 1 and 3, kind of like that. And 3 plays 2 and 3. And if it was even at the end, you played doubles. But we never played doubles.
Okay. Right, where's Paola gone? Is she still with us? Is she off? She's off my screen.
I think her Wi-Fi cut out, so she's
Oh,
disappeared.
right. Really, do you want the oh no, do you want to take I noticed we've got 3 questions on YouTube. Do you want to take 1, 2 or 3?
Yeah, sure. So we got one from Table Tennis Fun, who said, "What fitness training do you do?"
Fitness training. Ooh. Now probably a lot more. When I was that was like one thing that I was always not that good at. I would be good at it if we'd go on a camp or if we'd have something. I would do it. I would never complain about doing it. I was, yeah, I could do it. But then it kind of came a little bit more relaxed. In Italy, we had a physical trainer who came a lot of the time, did a lot of sprints. He was very good, but the problem was he wasn't permanent. So he would come for 1 week of the month most of the time, and every day it was just like, I don't want to lie, it was like hell a little bit, because he would just, you'd wake up before practice physical, after practice physical, second practice physical, because he was only there for that 1 week. And then it was kind of like, as soon as he was gone, we didn't maintain that, and then everyone was a bit confused what the program was, because we couldn't sustain that. So it's a lot. We did a lot of sprints. I think sprints helps a lot, and a lot of agility. We focused a little bit more on strength towards the end. But yeah, I do a lot of running now.
Good.
I don't know.
Right, Amelia, do you want to take another
A few
one?
more.
Chat line.
One from Ben Hart, who's a younger player in Scotland, I think.
Yeah.
He said, "What was the hardest tournament you have played in?"
The hardest. I'm gonna go with, okay, so I played World Championships, but in terms of the hardest matches I've probably had to play was probably the World Cup, Table Tennis World Cup that was held in London, because we only got a place because we were hosting it, which we'll take that opportunity. I'm not gonna, but the matches we played were against like Singapore and I can't even remember the other country, but it was just, they were the top 8 teams in the world basically. So that was the hardest in terms of level. The hardest terms that I played, the hardest in terms of mentality, was probably Commonwealth Games. That was mentally challenging because it was like more a bit like a junior tournament. You had the singles, you had the doubles, and then we won a medal, and it was all up in the air, and then we had doubles. It was all over the place, so you had to stay very focused. And obviously you're in this like amazing place, and you just kind of you're in Australia on the Gold Coast, and you're just like, wow, there's a pool there, like but we had to stay really focused, and that was kind of difficult, because at the same time you wanted to enjoy everything, you realized that you were there for a purpose, and you'd done all this stuff for a purpose.
Holly, do you want to take a question of your own and one from the chat line?
So my own question is, what is like your routine before you play like a big match? Like, what do you do to like prepare yourself?
Ooh, I think it depends. It depends if I'm playing internationally or not. I like to normally warm up. For me, I like a lot of warm up. So it's actually quite difficult sometimes finding someone who wants. I normally have to probably swap partners, because for me, I play my best, I think, once I'm actually a little bit, that sounds weird, a little bit tired, because I've really got into it and I'm playing. It's normally like the end of a training session, I'm feeling my best and I'm like, well, I want to keep playing. So it's a little bit like that, a lot of practice beforehand, and I don't really listen to music. I kind of just stay in my own place and try and ignore everything that's going on around me. I don't really speak much to people. But one of my really bad habits is that I don't eat for some reason. If I have a competition, I just don't eat. And then I realized that also at the Nationals in last year, because it got to like 3 p.m. and I was like, oh, I don't feel good. My dad was like, have you eaten anything? And I was like, no. So I'd recommend eating something. That's actually something I need to work on. Finding a balance of when to eat, what's going to work for me. So yeah, no big like skipping or anything like that. It's just I like to be on my own, a lot of warm up and mentally prepared. I like to think good things.
Yeah.
One from the YouTube chat.
I don't know how to get that.
All right, okay. Or Mark, either one.
Yes, sorry. There's another one for Ben Hart about you mentioned earlier about a robot. You've got a robot that you practice on. Is there set exercises that you do?
On the robot. So I used it. It's actually programmed. I don't use it that often because it's a little bit off at the moment. I got it before the balls changed, so it's a little bit off, but it still works. Personally, for me, I don't like to do too much with it. I like to keep it to the basics. I feel like my one, I can't program to go short then long. It's very much like you either practice your flick or you practice an exercise. I like doing a lot of like short movements, just feeling the ball. I like to put the spin up quite high to just learn how to learn to block the ball and maybe small re-loops on it. Mainly on my backhand as well, because most people know my backhand is probably my weakest shot. So I like to, it's a real opportunity for me to just sit down and focus. I can just practice like constantly backhand open ups or backhand drives or backhand over the tops. And then if I want, turn and play a forehand. Nothing too complicated. Yeah.
Okay, Mark, question of your own or another one from the web chat?
Well, I'm going to take you back to 2014, because looking through your sort of history, it seems to be quite a big year for you. Looking at it, I think Home Nations, you won the team event, individual senior event, as well as under 21s national champs. I think it was a victory over Tintin in the final.
Yeah.
Obviously, looking at your reaction to it, obviously, do you remember much
I
about
don't think I've never played the Home Nations seniors, have I?
Well, that's on your. It's actually on your own website. Your own blog page.
That my dad runs. Maybe I have. Does it say who I played in the final? That might jog my memory.
No.
Oh. Under 21, was that probably my first under 21 title?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking through. I mean, obviously, I think there's quite a few big events as well. It seems to be like a breakthrough year. Is probably the reason behind the question of going that next step, national champs.
2014 was definitely, because 2014 I went to uni in 2015, and that's when I broke through into the senior squad. So that's definitely a year that I progressed a lot, and I worked. Yeah, my final year at school that would have been. Yeah. So. Yeah, I guess it was a good year. I remember
any trophies. That's the problem.
I remember winning my first under 21 title and just being ecstatic. I remember that I was in tears, and it was like, this was before we had, I think it was in Sheffield, and this was before we had like a proper professional format that they have now with Table Tennis England. So the under 21 matches were all played on a Friday, and so were the doubles. But the under 21 matches usually finished at about 10:30 p.m. And I remember some of my friends, I think it was Marcus Giles and Luke Saville, stayed till the end. And they watched me the whole time so that we could go and eat pizza afterwards. That's all I remember. I remember being so ecstatic, but then obviously you've got all this adrenaline, and then I had to play the next day.
I mean, obviously, I mean, beating Tintin, I don't know if that was maybe a national title, beating her for the sort of first time in a national final. We've certainly grown up over the last few years. Obviously, Tintin has had a lot of great press, quite rightly, and I know obviously you're great friends with her as well. So obviously, growing up with that, I mean, obviously, did that have a sort of feeling, or beat her in the final? Was it a bit of a shock to spectators, or?
Yeah, I think so. I won under 14s, under 15s, and under 18s, and all those finals were against Tintin. So there was always kind of a little bit of a rivalry. We are like best mates though. But I think when you step it up even more, and then you start winning at the senior national championships, then you start getting noticed a little bit more. I don't really think. I think I've got my parents to thank for this, but I didn't really think about what was going on, like on social media, if she was having videos, because to be fair, she was winning. She was #1 in the world or in Europe on the cadet level. Like, I was never that level. I had like a mental block against playing in Europe. So she full rightly deserved all that attention that she got. And she put in lot more hours than I did. So fair play, like she loves it, so fair play to her. Everything she does is just like she puts her all into it. So I didn't really think like, oh well, she did this and they're saying this about her. And if it's meant to be, people will write about you and people will, and I've had my fair few articles, so I can't really be too disheartened about it.
What about learning a musical instrument? Can you play the ukulele like she can, or a recent
No,
video?
but I have sat in America with her at 11 p.m. at night when I'm trying to sleep, and she's there harping on with a ukulele. I remember the day she, Maria, I'm going to start the ukulele. She already plays piano grade 8, violin grade 8, so I was just like, okay, you play the ukulele. And then it was every tournament. Maria, should I bring my ukulele? Maria, should we sing? I remember in, I must have even been in Australia. Yeah. She brought it and we all sang around. Yeah. It's just Tintin. She's just going to do that. But I don't play any musical instruments. I did like grade 4 euphonium and I played a little bit of piano, but I'm not so musically gifted.
It's interesting because sometimes people will say your environment's important, and it certainly is. But the synergy of having a good practice partner and a good rival, to me, I think that tops everything. So you and Tintin, you've probably helped each other and dragged each other along, and your friends, I believe you practice with her. Can you just talk me through that synergy?
Yeah, so I don't think it was until we started playing in the England team. We are so different on every level. Like, I'm so loud. But there was just like a connection between us. We were just really, really good friends. Like, I would trust her with anything, and I think the same for her. Which is always helpful when you travel a lot. You don't want to be stuck in a room with someone all the time, being like, oh, like someone you can have banter with, someone you can do stupid stuff like that. I think we were both a little bit, no one saw this side to her, but I think we were both a little bit immature. So I would bring out the little like fun side to her and that no one really got to see. And yeah, again, at the same time, we were both playing against each other. And it was kind of a bit like, we didn't hate playing against her. I don't think there's ever been any sort of tension between it. As soon as I won, I think she would come and say, well done, as soon as she won. Maybe if it's a really bad loss or something, it might take 20 minutes, but at the end of the day, I always was, again, it's a table tennis match. Like, it wasn't my life. Like, it was, but also at the same time, like, it wasn't going to change anything. So you just kind of have to suck it up, and you just have to be happy that you have someone there pushing you, and someone, again, she only lives 30 minutes away. When she was living in London and I was living in Reading, I could just message her on the weekend. Do you want to practice? She has a table at her house. Just used her basically for her table.
So would you say, if we can look at our Scotland girls, I say they don't practice with each other enough. So is that a fair criticism, girls? Or Maria, what would you say? Would if you was in Scotland, would you be ringing up one of the girls and there's
Depends how many camps do you have? Do you see? So I think a team atmosphere. I think what was so great about my kind of England generations, I had me, Lois, and Tintin, and we started it was called the YDS Youth Development Squad together. Maybe Tintin was already higher, but we kind of came through together. We played at our first, not Tintin's, but our first internationals. We played together, and we kind of were at these camps at the time, and we kind of grew up with each other. And so I think if you have a lot of camps, it depends also how far away you live. Again, I use sometimes Emily Bolton. I would go up if we had a camp or something. I didn't have anything on the weekend or something. It was half term. Go up and stay at someone's house. People are like, if you're friends as well, it helps because you can practice together. You can also then go and do. If someone's there, you can go and do whatever you want to go to town, do whatever. But you can also have that quality practice as well.
Can I just follow up on that? So we're talking about you're able to play without a coach. You have that self-sufficiency, which is absolutely crucial to be a world-class player, to be a national player. When you're practicing, do you need a coach there, or are you able to get a practice partner and know you can put 2 good hours in without having to be looked at by a coach?
I think personally it depends on my mental capacity on the day. If I'm willing to put my mental side into it and I'm not feeling mentally tired, I think I could practice. I know what I need to do. And also again with Tintin, we're so good at like pushing each other. If we'd go and spend 2 hours in her table in her house, we would be able to, we help each other. And it got to that point where she'd be like, well, you need to move forward a little bit more, Maria. Like you kind of watch each other and have each other's backs. I think moving to Italy was a huge surprise because obviously they have a national training centre. Nottingham was kind of like that, and it was so great. Alan Cook he used to come at like 7 in the morning to practice with me and give me multi-ball. I think that side of it, having someone to give you multi-ball is great as a coach because many players are not so good at giving multi-ball. I'll put my hands up and say that I'm not very good at that. But in Italy, when I moved there, they had coaches behind them all the time. And then you'd hear them whining when the coaches went there. And I was like, well, come on, like, you know what you have to do. Like, you know how it gets to a point where you know how to play. I think it's more crucial when you're younger because your mind tends to wander and you don't have such a solid focus on, okay, this exercise is going to help for this. That's what I need to do. And I immerse myself into a lot of different exercises basically. So I learned loads of new exercises that maybe we didn't really do here and they focused on in Italy, and I brought them back a little bit and saw how they plan their sessions basically.
Right, so I've got this picture, like we have 5 training camps, and you're saying when you go to these training camps, it helps you to get to know your colleagues, to practice with them. You go back to, in your case, Reading, in our case, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Perth, or wherever, and then that helps you to practice together. Good, getting a good picture. Mark, do you want to, we seem to have a lot of YouTubers. Do you want to just give us a YouTuber?
Well, you know what, Dave, I'm just going to come in with something just on the back of what you were saying there. Just before we go to YouTube questions, there was quite an interesting interview with Darius Knight yesterday. That was actually shown where he was talking about his take on table tennis, quite honest, and not to draw you on politics of table tennis, Maria, but one sort of theme that came from it was about making your own success, or does it need to be a structure from a national association? So maybe the point behind it is that does a national association have to plan things for you? Do you need to go to camps? Or do people become too reliant on that as players? Or is it about that individual, about making their own success?
I think it's a lot of behind the scenes. What you want to do behind the scenes is going to ultimately help you. I don't think you should be like, oh, well, I have a camp in 3 weeks. Well, I don't need to practice so hard. If you want to be the best, I'd fully say that you need to put in the work and you need to fight for it, basically. But I think those camps are ultimately there to help you, because usually there are top level coaches there. So even if you only get exposure to them, make the most of that exposure to them. They're only going to help you, and you're only going to broaden your ability to practice against other players that you don't normally get to practice against, whether it be defense or someone who blocks a little bit more, or pimples. Maybe you don't have that where you are. It all depends on your circumstances. Are your parents, I was very fortunate, my parents were willing, when we had a little carpool, so they only took sometimes into central London. We used to go and practice in central. It used to take us 2 hours basically to get there, and then we used to drive 2 hours back. So if you're willing to put that in, okay, maybe I don't need a national setup, but if that national setup is helping you develop as you get older, and it's only there to benefit you, not there to pull you back, and if they understand that, and they understand that sometimes maybe you can't make camp, there can be an allowances, and they check in with you, I think it can only be beneficial.
Right, can we have a YouTuber? They're piling up now, aren't they?
Well, there's a couple in there, Dave. So a question from Paul Silcock. How important are training camps to young players? Well, obviously, we've covered this off, but what is a good balance of training? Basically, group sessions, one-to-ones?
I think group sessions, if you're young, again, group sessions are great. You make friends. There's people there. Like, you're not in this like table tennis hall, which sometimes isn't that great, with a coach that's normally probably much older than you. Like, when you're younger, it's a chance to make friends as well, and that's such a crucial part. If you don't look forward to it, and you don't look forward to also having fun and stuff like that, then it's difficult. But at the same time, you do need that one-to-one, I think, sometimes. Maybe not when you're so young, but if you're trying to take it to that next level, having a coach there to give you, I would just highlight multi-ball, basically. But that could be 2 of you. That could be one person picking up the balls, the other doing multi-ball. I do a lot of that in Italy. You switch it over. So, and they're solely focused on you for that minute. I guess in group sessions, depends also if you have, I don't know, 50 people on these camps, maybe, they're not going to get the exposure like to the coach that they might do if it's a one-to-one basis. It depends what the ratio is as well. If you have 4, if they're getting input from a coach all the time, I think, again, a group session is only beneficial to young table tennis players.
Holly, we've not heard from you for a while. Have you got a question?
So see, when like you're playing a match, how do you prefer like the bench being quite loud and like not supportive or anything, but like really like clapping and stuff, or just maybe a bit like quieter and still like supporting you, but just not as like loud and outgoing?
And I'm a very loud and outgoing person. So I like it loud and outgoing. I think that only spurs me on. But also what I would say to that is, a lot of the time, like having people that I knew on the bench as well, it was a bit weird. Like, it got to the point where I would make eye contact with Tintin, and she'd just like give me this kind of like look, even Lois or the coach, and you just kind of like, it was like time to focus. It was time, like you were gonna narrow in and you were gonna fight now, basically. You weren't gonna think about anything else. I think it's always great to have people supporting you, but again, it's on individual basis. Some people aren't so loud. Some people get intimidated when people are clapping because maybe other people start looking. So you have to work with each other. I know people who don't chow on the table. I love chowing. I think I brought Tintin to chowing. She loves chowing now, so it all depends on the person. But for me personally, I like a loud bench. I like to know that you're fully focused on what I'm doing, especially if we're playing teams. You're fully focused, because again, it's a team. So if one person is playing on their phone or looking around, talking to someone else, and you catch them, not that you're just looking for it, but you just suddenly catch their eye doing that, you're like, well, why aren't you paying attention to me? And I think that is a bit rude. So I like to be fully focused on what the team is trying to achieve, and you're all going to put your effort in. And on the bench, a lot of that effort, I'll stand by Nikki Jarvis, Europeans 2015. I went with Lois and Tintin, and we came 8th at Europeans in the team event. I pulled out at the round before the quarterfinals. I pulled out. We lost 2-2 to Romania, 3-2 because I withdrew 2 matches. And I stand by, we were a team. Like, I never felt once that there was any sort of like, well, you're in anything. And I put my work in on the bench, and we came 8th. And I always remember Nikki Jarvis just turned around and was like, you played such a big role in pushing the girls and helping them maintain their level and being so supportive that drove them on, and they felt they could accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. So I stand by it. But again, also many people don't like that. But that's personally my opinion.
Amelia, do you want to take a YouTuber and then one of your own?
Yeah, so from YouTube, I can't think of any more. This one you've kind of touched on, but how often do you train? Or how often did you train, I guess?
Yeah, before this whole thing, before I was injured. When I was at uni, it was it wasn't set training. And when I was at school, it wasn't set training. Okay, I tried to go as much as I could to the club and get quality. I was always in favor of getting quality practice over quantity. I would rather a 2-hour good session and then maybe 2 days break, not by my choice, but maybe there was no availability, than practice that with someone that maybe won't benefit me as much, but I would rather put my heart into those 2 hours. When I moved to Italy, it was like, which it didn't take me by surprise. I knew it was going to happen, but I had nothing else to focus on, so it played a lot in your mind. But it was basically 2.5 hours in the morning and between 2 hours and 2.5 hours in the evening every day, and that was Monday to Saturday, which was painful, but they were very good to me. They were like, I can't say how grateful I am to the Italian Federation to me, because they would make allowances for me to rest if I needed to rest. They were very, very good with all that stuff. So they obviously know that you need to rest, and they do sometimes say, okay, Wednesday morning wasn't so good. I think you should all take the afternoon off and just chill. But also running up to tournaments, I like to play a little bit less sometimes. It depends how I'm feeling. But that was generally every week by week analysis. Like, it was crazy. I even remember getting a text from Marcus, and he was like, you sure you're ready to commit to this? This is like double what you're normally doing. And I was like, yeah, I'll go for it.
Mark, have you got a question of your own?
Well, I just wanted to talk about a minute ago about being loud on the table. So you've managed to play mixed doubles with our own Gavin Runge, another player who likes to be loud on the table. It'd be great if there's any coverage from the mixed doubles match. I think you had a tough loss. I mean, obviously, what was it like playing mixed doubles with Gavin? Did you enjoy it?
And who was the loudest?
Yeah.
Well, I would actually say I was probably the loudest there. But it was kind of funny because it was a Nigerian Open, but Gavin was late for our first match. And so I had to go to the table with no partner and be like, well, he's not here. We don't know. But basically the opponents were either late or were no-shows. So I was the only one out of all 4 people who were meant to go to the table. So I just signed that we won, even without having a partner.
Oh, wow.
And then the next match we played, I think they might have been the number 1 seeds. Lisa Lung.
Number 3 seeds. I've done my research. Number 3 seeds.
Number 3 seeds, Lisa Lung and Cedric Nyontik, I can't say that name, from Belgium. And we won the first set. We were on a roll. We had the crowd. They love Gavin out there. Obviously, everyone loves Gavin out there. He's a name out there, isn't he? So but then unfortunately, we had some good chances. We were playing well. It was our first time again. I think these things, the way that me and Kelly played in Commonwealth was only because we had solely focused on doubles for about 6 months. Like, we were fully invested into that partnership. Whereas me and Gavin had never played together. But I think our personalities were quite good together. I was still vouched that I was louder probably. But yeah, it was just a difficult match to start off, I guess.
mean, obviously it's a difficult tournament anyway. I think you had a tough 7-set loss in the singles yourself to an Indian. You know, I mean, you're obviously going to these tournaments and traveling so far, and obviously such a tough match to lose in 7 sets. How do you feel about that? Obviously going back home or going to the next tournament, or does it spur you on?
Oh, that was horrible to take, that one. I would say that was probably one of the horriblest. I was in Nigeria kind of alone. Like I knew Gavin. I didn't really know so many other players who were there. So I really had no one in my corner. At least sometimes when we go to international events without England, you have either Charlotte Carey from Wales or Tintin or another English player is there, or one of